Associate Professor at Rowe School of Business at Dalhousie University, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's Open Dialogue Live episode, a virtual conversation with four Dalhousie alumni who are small business owners facing unprecedented challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's conversation will explore how they are navigating these challenges and learning to adapt their business practices. They will speak about their experiences and will discuss possible paths forward for the local business community. Let's introduce our panelists. We have Mitch Benvie, Bachelor of Science 2008, co-owner of Evolve Fitness Ltd. Sarah Craig, Bachelor of Commerce 2010, owner and operator of iHeart Bikes. Hana Nelson, Bachelor of Science 2008, owner operator of Afficionado Fishmongers. And Doug Townsend, Bachelor of Commerce 2004, co-owner of the Canteen on Portland and Little C Takeout. During today's episode, we encourage you and our viewers to post questions online in the comments section. A little later in our program, if time permits, we'll relay some of these questions to our panelists. So let's begin. Hana, you are a fishmonger, and your company, Afficionado, occupies a unique place in Halifax as a place dedicated to sustainable seafood. Can you tell us about how Afficionado came about?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, so this is year 6 of operation, and I started it because I really saw that seafood was missing from the conversation around local food, in particular sustainably fished and farmed seafood. And I saw that while we had a vibrant and blossoming local food system related to mostly terrestrial agriculture, seafood, our number one export in the province, was often missing from these local food conversations. Especially the issues of ocean governance is quite complex, and I've always felt that if we didn't have access to that product locally, then we weren't able to be knowledgeable constituents about how those fisheries and farms are managed. And also, we live here, we're beside the ocean, and access to this wonderful protein is often difficult and limited. And I wanted to change that and bring the seafood voice to our local food movement.
Thank you. Mitch Benvie, workout videos have been around for a long time, but what you're doing at Evolve Fitness is something more. Tell us what Evolve is doing these days with online videos and how Evolve came to be.
Well, with the videos, obviously, we have a lot of things to reference when looking at different types of workout videos. We've seen them all as trainers. What we wanted to do differently was we're really rooted in community in our in-person gyms. So what we do that other videos don't do is we have 2 people doing the workouts, one of them just leading the workout, and it's on Zoom, so you can see everybody who has their cameras turned on. So one person is leading the class and interacting with the people on the screens, while the second person is participating in the workout. So that's the person that you would watch. So one person kind of explaining and the other person doing the actual workout.
That would help.
Yes, yeah. So having 2 people is, it's more fun for the people. When you're doing the workout, it's a little bit harder to interact with people when you're huffing and puffing through a workout.
Doug Townsend, you've been closely involved in both the business and food scenes pretty much since you graduated from Dalhousie, including your time spent with as the director of marketing for Taste Nova Scotia. How did you leap to opening a restaurant come about?
Well, I guess the short answer to that would be that I married a chef. But the actual sort of path to getting into the restaurant business is pretty long and kind of many detours and things along the way. But essentially, Renee opened the canteen, what we call Canteen 1.0, back in 2014, and that was a sandwich counter, quick service kind of restaurant. But she has a background in fine dining, so we had a bit of a different spin on that, where it was a sandwich restaurant, but everything was made in-house using quality local ingredients. But during that time, I wasn't actually working in the business. I was kind of helping as much as I could in behind the scenes on the sidelines. And then about 3 years in, we had an opportunity to move the restaurant to Portland Street in downtown Dartmouth, which was really exciting, in an old, what was a Chinese food restaurant for 40 years, but it had been closed for about 5 years. And a friend of ours was redeveloping the property and approached us about it. But at that time, taking the leap from, a sandwich counter to full service, 65-seat restaurant was a big one. And anyone that knows chefs, Hana knows them well, they're not always focused on the business side of things. And, Renee, really at the end of the day, is an artist. And my opportunity was I said to her, I was like, you're not doing this alone, because it's just too much. And I think that you'll burn out, because you're always on the verge anyway. But I said, I can come in, we can work on this together, be fully bought in, create a true family business. And I always sort of joke, and people always ask me, like, well, what do you do? Because it's so obvious what Renee does. She's a chef. She's the creative genius behind everything. And I always say, I just basically do everything that Renee doesn't want to do. But yeah, so that's how I got involved. It's been about 3 years now. Been very, very fortunate. But yeah, I've been about total of like 13, 14 years in the food industry in the province. And it's been incredible to see the evolution during that time. It's neat seeing, hearing Hannah's story, because I've known Hannah for a long time, and things certainly were a lot different when we both kind of got started in the food scene in the province.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Sarah, I understand the inspiration for I Heart Bikes, which provides bike rentals and tours from the Halifax waterfront, came about while you're still a student. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I studied business, and I kind of did an undeclared minor focus in environmental science. And in my 2 last co-op terms leading up to graduation, I worked for the provincial government in the climate change directorate. And I was really interested in climate change and business, and how, businesses could be more sustainable or environmentally friendly to help kind of solve the ecological crisis. That kind of morphed into a bike rental business, believe it or not. But that was something that was kind of within my control, that I felt was something positive for the city. And so that was about 9 years ago now. And certainly then, and I would definitely argue still now, is there seems to be 2 types of cyclists. There's like your activist student, and it's not that it is this way, it gets polarized into that way. And then there's like the person with the couple $1,000 bike and their spandex, but there's a whole bunch of different cyclists in between there. So I really wanted to again do something positive for my city. I bought 10 city bikes, and I just wanted to get everyday people out cycling around Halifax. I had been gifted and then had my bicycle stolen, and then was gifted another bicycle. And it was kind of this upright bike with a basket and flowers on it. And it really just changed my quality of life, using that to get around than walking or taking the bus.
It's interesting. I listened to an interview with James May from Top Gear, the real, like a gearhead. And it was all about how cycling has changed everything for him right now. So that was interesting. Yeah. So, let's move forward to March this year, when COVID-19 became the pandemic and forced many countries, provinces, and cities to shut down, closing most businesses or forcing them to change direction. I'd like to ask each of you what your initial reaction was when the province of Nova Scotia, in fact, the whole country of Canada, declared a state of emergency, and everyone was asked to stay in, to isolate, and to flatten the curve. Sarah, let's start with you. What was your reaction?
So my business is closed to the public in the winter months. So we're closed from November till April every year. And I was having a really fabulous booking season. Our bookings were super high first week of December, and we're just growing from there. So I was looking forward to my best year yet. We really moved into overnight trips and cycling trips for people over the years. A really good friend of mine was or lives in a city right next to Wuhan. And so she was in lockdown from the very beginning. And I remember talking to her and kind of getting her through it because she was feeling super depressed in isolation. And I was kind of thinking, like, is this going to come here? And, you're kind of watching everything. And the first thing I did is I kind of created a plan. Well, maybe I should account for a higher number of cancellations. So be prepared to refund more bookings than I typically see. And then, kind of fast forward to lockdown. I don't think anyone was ready for the severity of this or the enormity of it and how it would impact everything. But it certainly hit home. I went and visited my parents for 2 weeks and packed my bags and kind of thought, well, if I stay inside and everyone stays inside for 2 weeks, everything will be okay for summer and everything is going to be fine. But in the back of your mind, no, this is not a 2-week thing. And slowly I feel like the government warmed people up to the idea that, it's a few months and then, we're looking at this season. And now for me, I've really accepted that it could potentially go into next season as well. So I started creating a number of plans. So I kind of had my A, B, C, and D scenario. And the A scenario is that things go as planned. I had ordered 50 new bikes, and I was going to double my fleet and hit 100 this year. But that was my plan C was to cancel that order. And now that's what I've ended up doing. And my plan B was to half that order. And so, as I got more information and gotten a better idea of what we were looking at for this season, then I made the adjustments where I could. And then plan D was, well, we're not going to open at all. So we have been able to open, and we opened about mid-May.
Congratulations. Doug. Well, the pandemic forced you and Chef Renee Lavallee to close the canteen. You didn't stay closed for long. You actually transformed the restaurant into the canteen community kitchen. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, Renee and I were actually finishing up a trip in Mexico, and we got home, and things started to really happen on our way home. Where we realized that this was coming strong and fast, and within a few days of coming home, we closed the restaurant and we laid off the majority of our team. So other than our management team, we had to say, everyone else was on temporary layoff, which was devastating to us. Team is everything. For us in our restaurant, we have about 30 people that work with us. After we kind of got through that initial shock of dealing with those kind of decisions, you sort of compressed like 2 years worth of like major decision making into the span of a few days, which was just absolutely wild. But once we were able to step back from that a little bit, we were seeing what was going on in other cities. And there were some amazing things happen, like cities that had kind of been affected earlier than us, that were a little further along. And we are seeing some amazing things happening, some very positive kind of community-driven initiatives. And Renee and I said to each other, we have a restaurant that's going to sit idle for a while. We know that. We also have a platform, through our community, where we can really kind of spread positive messages or try to, get community engaged in something. So we've been partnered with the Dartmouth North Community Food Center, which is now called the North Grove, for a long time. Renee's a national spokesperson for Community Food Centers Canada. I'm on the board there, and so I called the executive director, Wendy Fraser, and it started out with a conversation saying, we have some inventory sitting in our fridge that we can't use. Can you guys put this to use? And then we started talking more and more, and then it was like, you know what? You guys are really limited now, and the output that you're able to produce through the food center due to social distancing and lack of volunteers, but the demand from the community for meals is higher than ever. So we saw an opportunity to join forces. And since yeah, basically since the beginning of April, we've been making between 400 and 500 meals a week from the restaurant, and we're opening next week, and we're actually going to continue doing it just because the demand's still there. We have a great partnership, so essentially they're able to help fund some of the costs that go into these meals, and then we're able to leverage our team and our facility. But it's been an incredible initiative that's been very rewarding for Renee and I, and it also has helped, give us a sense of purpose throughout all this, like to help us step away from our own issues and kind of not feel so bad for ourselves, because we actually have it pretty good at the end of the day. There's a lot of people that are really suffering, and food insecurity is a huge issue in our country and in our own community. So it was a great opportunity, and we've also managed throughout this to engage other partners and people that have stepped up with donations. So it's been a very positive part of this whole crazy mess that we're in right now. But it's something that we're going to take away from this crisis and hopefully find a way to continue this on some level, in an ongoing sort of basis moving forward.
Thank you. It's that's been something that's impressed me is how many people have stepped in to help build a more positive response to the challenges that everybody's facing. Hana, you deal a lot with wholesale. How did the closing of restaurants impact Afficionado?
Yeah, it's been for sure a difficult time for a lot of our customers and friends who we've grown with over the years as the local food scene in Halifax has grown. So it's been devastating on that front, realizing the impact that this has had for a lot of, our customer base, our friends. One thing that was unique for us, and I think that the pandemic has really shown, people who've had things in place before were able to maybe quickly adapt to some of these closures and conditions. And one thing for us, we've had a fish subscription program for the last 3 or 4 years now. And last year we transitioned it to Catch of the Month program, so people get a month's worth of fish. And already we're online, so we had a couple thousand oysters sitting in our cooler that week when everything happened really quickly. And we did a promo online, and the uptake from the community was amazing. And we started building out more on our website, and the demand was still there because people are obviously eating at home. The other unique thing that we had, and this predated the pandemic, was at the ground level of our building in Halifax. It's a collaborative farmers market with 2 other farmers. So a meat farm, Holdanka from Tatamagouche, and an organic produce farmer, Abundant Acres, from the Windsor Valley. So we'd always, for the past 2.5 years now, had this farmers market, and since probably mid-February, but we really started accelerating the conversations. First week of March, we thought we might have to go online, and I credit that to David of Abundant Acres, where he really started thinking about it a lot very early on. So we started having those conversations about, we should do home deliveries. We should do these CSA type boxes with all of our food products, and then start adding in from other farms that we knew, like Foxhill Milk and Cheese, and Neudart is just up the road from us. They're an organic cheese maker. Sugar Moon Farms is on my drive to work. So we started creating all of these networks with other farmers to go online and do home deliveries in that first month. So we had 2 full weeks in March where we were doing that, and it was crazy, and it was very stressful to be in an environment where everything's closed, and now all of a sudden you're from 0 to 100 on something entirely new, where you have uncertainties with staff about what we should do, how should we behave, and I'm really glad that the 3 businesses, we all decided that we were going to stay open, that nobody was asking Loblaws and Sobeys to close. So us as a small retail shop that really focused on local food, we're more important than ever. Those shorter food chain links are really critical. So while the province and the Provincial Association for Farmers Markets decided to close farmers markets because they are such a aggregation point for so many people, we decided to stay open and to put in some restrictions where for a while only 2 people were allowed in the space and then 3 people. But I think that was really important that we found a way to stay open because we were still an access point for local food. All the while, I wasn't there at all. And this was the big challenge. Our team in Halifax was absolutely amazing because we also have a processing plant in Truro. And the second week of March, we had a staff member at the processing plant go for a test for COVID. And that really quickly enabled us to start putting some plans in, which was, I can't go to Halifax. What happens if her test comes back positive? And I've been interacting with Halifax. Now, both locations are closed for 2 weeks. So we started putting in some really strict policies around teams. So if you work with a team, you can't work with somebody else, so that if somebody does get sick, and we were actually assuming that it was going to be inevitable, in a way that we would have a backup team to replace them. So it was only probably about 3 weeks ago that I started going to our Halifax office again. And our team in Halifax and how everybody just turned on a dime to start the online sales, home deliveries. It was really amazing, and really proud of them. And then all the while, our food processing plant was also more critical than ever because of how we operate and the philosophy behind our business. We had previously created relationships with online retailers in Toronto and Montreal. So like Fresh City Farms in Toronto and Lufa Farms in Montreal. They actually took all of our restaurant volume because they were seeing incredible spikes in sales as well. So now, instead of putting out a more food service oriented product, which requires less work, so restaurants want whole fish or different types of products, now we're going to online retailers that need the highest labor level of product, which is frozen individual portions all to a certain size. So it actually required more labor. But again, we were all in a situation where we don't want strangers coming into our work environment. So it meant that I started working the processing plant floor and really long days to try to make sure that we were getting out the door what we needed to maintain those sales to Ontario and Montreal customers. And it was really stressful, and it really took a toll where, you know, as the leader, you're trying not to show stress, you're trying to show resiliency. Everybody is uncertain, and it was really difficult because you didn't necessarily have a network that you would have had before to talk to and help figure out some of the psychological impacts of what this is creating in them, and the stress that everybody so rightly felt. Luckily, that staff member was negative, and we never had a staff member that was positive for COVID, but it was always very much in our minds that, you know, as frontline workers, we are exposed. And, you know, with what was happening in April and other processing plants in the US and Alberta started, you know, asking really important questions about this type of work and what we're doing. But it's been this very bizarre, you know, every month has been entirely different from the one before. And it's been really difficult trying to navigate what the heck should you do next.
Yeah. Thank you. You remind me what Doug said about planning in a compressed decision making. You had to make all those changes very quickly. Yeah. Thank you. Mitch.
Hey, can I confirm that you can hear me right now?
I can hear you very well.
So, I just Sate was just delivering some food.
Oh, now I lost you.
Disconnected me for a second.
Oh, no, you're back. Okay, good. Many fitness gyms and studios in Nova Scotia that were forced to shut down because of COVID-19 started offering classes to their clients. At Evolve Fitness, you went a step further. You started raising funds from clients using online workouts to support local businesses that were struggling with the loss of business. Tell us about the $50,000 goal and how it's going.
Well, actually, it was my brother and I will say that the pros and cons of being in business with your identical twin brother, the pros, as much as I hate to admit it, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. We have very similar values, so every decision that comes out of Evolve starts with one of us and then either gets rejected or modified. A fine-tuned idea. So we closed early, actually, before forced closure. The gyms are high risk, and incredibly fortunate that if you guys are familiar with Dr. Todd Hatchett, is an infectious disease doctor here in the city, and a really close friend as well, and client of 9 years. So he was advising us that maybe we should be closed early, so we closed a little bit before other businesses because it is such a high risk. And so my brother was away. Actually, he was in Chicago visiting some of our good friends that were former clients who had moved away. So just the back and forth, how to keep clients engaged was the first most important thing. So I suggested that home workouts are pretty incomplete if you don't have any equipment. But if you have just one dumbbell, I thought that if we actually just almost finished renovations before we closed. So we had all the new equipment and dumbbells, which was unfortunate but fortunate because we gave away all of our dumbbells to clients so that they could have a little bit better home workout. So literally the next day we were online with our classes. And then my brother, who was still in Chicago, we were kind of going back and forth with, everybody's going to be working out from home. So we were just going into lockdown, it's not just our clients. So we wanted to reach other people, but also the charity thing started with really just wanting to help my clients who own businesses. So I have a lot of clients who are also entrepreneurs who are forced to close, and not necessarily in a situation where they could pivot during the closure. And obviously, it was a very fluid situation at the time. But we thought if we raised a few $1,000s, that would really help out some of our clients. And so we just kind of put it out there that we were going to go beyond our clients and do it donation only, so that people who lost their jobs would be able to afford the fitness program. So we did $5 minimum and for 30 days, which turned into 6 weeks. Actually, if you originally jumped on it, we ended up raising money for 6 weeks. So I guess what we thought might be a few $1,000s turned into $65,000 actually. So it was really quite amazing in the end to see the people. We rented out our spin bikes for donation only as well. So it was really quite amazing to see that kind of response from people who really care about local businesses. And we weren't the only ones doing stuff to help out local businesses. So we used 100% of that money to buy gift cards to businesses that were closed down. And now we're using those gift cards basically as prizes for little challenges that we do with our online training.
Mitch?
Yep.
Your mic goes in and out. I don't know why. So we missed. Now it's okay.
Yeah, when he called me repeatedly when I.
No, now it's going.
So I don't know how that threw me off. Can you hear me now?
No, it goes in and out still.
That is. I'm gonna hold this. Do you want me to go backstage and come back in? Would that help?
You were better right there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me clearly right now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, so I think we heard bits and pieces of what you did, but we're kind of.
Do you want the fast clip notes?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so when we closed, we opened up our fitness program to clients on the first day, and then the second day we had an idea that we could help people work out from home, but also use the platform to raise money for other businesses that were forced to close. So we thought that it might just be clients that we would help, but we did a minimum of $5 so that people who lost their jobs could afford the online program that we were doing for a month, which again turned into 6 weeks. The response was incredible. 2,000 people did it. We raised $65,000. So we went beyond helping out clients. So we have about 100 businesses on our list that we bought gift cards for, which we're now giving away as kind of mini challenges and prizes throughout our virtual training program.
That's pretty incredible.
I wanted to say thanks, Mitch, because we're one of the recipients of that amazing program. So we had some people come in a few weeks ago to pick up some takeout, some new faces too, which is great. So that was very cool. So
that was actually a part of a different program where we, for our actual in-person clients, we did a takeout thing every Friday and Saturday where we bought different clients takeout from various local restaurants. So really trying our best. We have an incredible community involved. Like, I can't say enough. The support that we've had in closure is second to none. And I'm sure, Doug, you could probably speak to the same. You know, having a local restaurant and a local business with a lot of people who come through the doors. Halifax is unbelievable, and like, just can't say enough about the support that we've had. So it goes, and they want to help everybody. So it's been really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just jump in quickly too, just to share an example of that too. When we first closed, before we knew any of the government supports that would be available for our team, we were very concerned about their financial situation. And we put it out there that all of our gift card sales would be put into a fund to help support our team. And within 3 days, we raised $10,000, which was unbelievable. So that's another example of how strong the community is, for sure.
100%. I totally agree with that. People are amazing, especially, you know, the compassion level is we're really seeing how strong Halifax is right now.
Yeah, and I like how we're dealing with technology. I keep moving closer as if you were with me. But it wasn't working. So thank you all for sharing your responses and where you are, kind of. So let's open up to the lightning round of questions. So in that, just whoever wants to respond, and please respond. So the first question is, what's been the biggest challenge or obstacle that you and your business have faced during this pandemic?
I mean, I can jump in and say that the fluidity of regulations and government help and access to that government help, you know, I'm sure that most people here can attest to that. It changes every day. We have an accountant, luckily a good friend and a long-time client as well, who helps a lot of small businesses. But literally every day it changed, and what we thought we really wanted to make sure to paid our full-time staff. We have salaried employees involved, so we wanted to make sure that they got 100% of their salary while we closed. So, not knowing about government help was really stressful, and then the fact how much it changed. It's been great now, but there were some really stressful moments in the beginning where it was just unclear what kind of help we would get.
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest challenge was probably just accepting like the enormity of the situation, and then the ability to try to plan for the future, because we still really don't know what's going to happen. So I normally order any new bikes for the season in September. And right now my bike supplier is asking me to order now for next year. And so it's this huge amount of uncertainty where, do I order X number of bikes? Are borders going to be open? Is it going to be open to all visitors, or is it's just, we don't know.
Yeah, same here, Sarah. It's like we're not even sure what this summer is going to look like for the restaurant industry. And we were literally on the verge of starting construction on a new project of ours across the street for like a 100-seat tavern that was supposed to be open like last weekend. But we're in a situation now where we're just trying to understand when and if we pull the trigger on that project, and it's the uncertainty and the no kind of clear line of sight is very, very challenging for sure.
Yeah, I echo the uncertainty comments, but one thing I think for sure that's been different for me has been the absence of childcare supports. Certainly, my partner runs an oyster farm. It's a labor-intensive job on the water, not necessarily the safest place for a toddler to be. So for kind of non-school age children, it was really difficult, and daycares for essential services were non-existent. I had family who didn't feel comfortable watching my daughter because of COVID and what we were being told that don't interact with people, yet childcare can happen organically, or neighbors or family are stepping in without the recognition of, what if neighbors and families don't feel comfortable? How do we operate? And it means that, somebody's business or job has to make a sacrifice. And in our case, it was my partner's business and job, which is really difficult when you're on an oyster farm and you've got 5-year classes, and not doing things this year affects us for the next 5. It's really difficult, and especially this week, businesses have opened, but daycares haven't. I found that decision really difficult, where the economy isn't ready if childcare is not ready, and we need to recognize that and stand up for especially women in business, women in the workplace. We know the repercussions and the effects that lack of access to childcare has, yet we're not making those decisions when it comes time to show leadership and make them. And we still don't have good answers on organic childcare will be found organically. Well, how? Healthcare professionals have been spending 3 times the amount on childcare during this period, because they're now bringing one person into the home. So now there's the economic cost to predominantly women to bringing in childcare so that you can continue to work. And I don't think that these have been adequately addressed, nor in the recovery. How are women in business and women in the workplace going to be supported? I mean, we've seen that there's been a 6-fold, I believe, increase in female unemployment versus male unemployment. And it's still shocking to me that these conversations aren't taking more of a forefront.
I would agree with you, Hana.
Yeah, I think when you're made aware, we can all agree about how we haven't, as a society, and address these things, and we still need to. Thank you. The next question: what have you learned about what works and what doesn't work? Anything that you would like to share with other business owners?
I'd share that what works right now is testing and retesting, and trial and error is the name of the game right now. If you wait for a perfect solution, it's going to be too late. If you wait for a perfect solution, it's probably the conditions and the environment will have changed to the point where that solution won't any longer be viable. Our first weekend of takeout, we tried to implement, a technology solution that failed miserably. We continued to refer to our first day of takeout as the Fire Festival of Takeout. It was a total disaster, mainly to us, but it did affect our customers to a certain extent. But despite that disaster, we learned a ton, which allowed us to continue to find the right solution, and we subsequently found something that was 10 times better than the original one. So I guess my feeling is not to be afraid of trying new things, because we've also found that our customers have been very accommodating to us and very understanding that things aren't going to be perfect, and they, for the most part, are very supportive and understand that these challenges are real. So that's kind of the one thing that we've learned. And traditionally, we would never launch something unless it was thoroughly tested and we're very comfortable with it. But now we don't have that luxury.
I think the one thing that works is being positive. Of all fit, and me and my brother especially, we just want to make sure that everything that comes out of our business is a positive. We might be feeling negative thoughts, of course. I definitely had a few the day after we closed, but people, if they are having a bad day and we are throwing out positivity on social media or whatever we're doing, that definitely puts a good light on your business. And if it helps to improve somebody's day, then that's awesome as well. So just remaining positive, especially on the social media. Lots to complain about for sure, but that should be private, in my opinion. And just getting out there and being as happy as you can, putting on a good face, that works every time.
I'll just say that I think that everyone's still kind of figuring this out. And I think with like the restaurants and things opening, you're going to start to see more and more people come out, and people will kind of be readjusting, reassessing. So it's just like still a big unknown. So it's kind of hard to say what's working and what's not. I think being positive, just like Mitch said, is super important. And I, for one, like, I didn't expect any of the support that the government is giving to small businesses. And I feel very lucky to be Canadian, and I feel very lucky to be in Nova Scotia at this time. But yeah, just kind of reevaluating as we go along. We kind of introduced a paperless rental system. So it kind of drove some efficiency. It's lower cost, it's less waste. And so far my staff prefer that than the paper system that we used to have.
I keep thinking about what Mitch said. Mitch said about being positive, and when Hana described everything at the processing plant, and it just like a snowball of effects. And if she hadn't remained positive, she might have had a very different story to tell. I think Hana's froze.
Yeah.
And we hope she'll come back soon.
I was just going to jump in, Albert. Just one other thing I was going to add there was another thing that we've learned, and I've talked to lots of my colleagues in our industry, but now is an amazing time, like no other that's come along, to really reevaluate, an industry as a whole. So we've looked really carefully at, in our restaurant, how do we, look very carefully at how the front and the back of the house are compensated. And that's always been a really big challenge in our industry. And so we've taken it as an opportunity to rework that system in our restaurant. And I know other restaurants are doing the same, to create a little more parity and to allow, cooks and chefs, in particular, to have more stability in their profession. But I know in other industries too, there's a great opportunity to really examine, maybe we've been doing it a certain way all along for no real reason. But there's been this, sort of break in the action that allows people to really think long and hard about, do we want to restart the same way and continue to see the same challenges? So that's been another positive thing. It's not an easy thing to tackle, but it's been one that I think will make some really positive changes in the long term.
Yeah, I think it's easy to see that a lot of businesses are going to come back. Even if we were coming back at 100% capacity, for gyms and restaurants especially, our business model is going to look different because of things that happened during lockdown. I know that Matt and I wanted to get into online training for sure, but I tell you, this was not the way that we would have done it, and it wouldn't have been the right way. And I think that we really hit it on the head, and mainly because we had the staff to be able to do it. We're only 2 years into a large location downtown. We put a lot of money into this location, and to be honest, we wouldn't have had money to be able to pay people to run an online program like this. But we had all of our employees who were not doing in-person boot camps anymore. So we got all in. We built 3 virtual studios in our current location. We got some extra space from our landlord, and we're only increasing our virtual presence after we reopen. We're doing 75 classes a week right now. So live classes. Wow. So, this is a model for the future for us, and seeing the good of the bad for sure, because it never would have happened if we weren't closed down.
I think it's certainly an opportunity, not just for like the restaurant industry, but the economy as a whole. I mean, for one, I'm really concerned about the climate crisis, and a lot of people are advocating that we build our green economy out of this downfall. And it's also been a time for us to reflect on social inequalities, like the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think there's still a lot of things that we need to address.
Agreed.
I think because none of us have been locked down before, or few of us, it changed a lot of our assumptions and our expectations, and I think made us open to the possibilities. Will any of you keep any of your new adaptations going forward, do you think?
So we started offering bike service. Without visitors, our bike tours have definitely taken a hit. We definitely see more locals for our rentals, but I kind of like revamped the shop and we built a service center, and that's something that we'll definitely continue to offer, is offering bike service to locals. And it's been super interesting because it's a different experience that you have when someone brings you their bike and it's all dirty and we clean it all up and they're like, oh, you made our bike look like new again. So it's been lovely that way to treat people or give their bikes a little bit of love.
I think for us, like I said, virtual training is here forever for us. We've invested heavily in keeping this going, but we're also really invested in continuing to help out to other businesses because, just like us, we're opening at reduced capacity. And again, Doug, I'm sure you can speak to this. It's difficult to make back money lost when you can't come back at 150%. We're coming back at 50%, or some people maybe even less than that. So we have a lot of space at our gym, so we're hoping that we will be able to open up a little bit more than 50%. But the virtual training, because it's has less limits, obviously it's done from home, more of an opportunity there. So we are continuing 15% of revenue to help out businesses that are reopening. So we want to continue to help out there for people who are struggling to kind of get going. And then as well, trying to get into some rural communities. So we're about to announce a partnership with the Stu Rath Center, is the Civic Center in Truro. If anybody's familiar with that, Hana probably, right across from the hospital. So that's going to be kind of a satellite of all. They're struggling with the reopening as well. Their gym they have a lot of members. So we're going to be kind of virtual partners, but also myself and Matthew are from Hilden, which is right next to Truro as well. So we will be doing some in-person stuff there too. Interesting opportunity with a large virtual platform to reach towns that don't have big gyms, or they just have these rec centers, and we can help that way as well.
I think for us with the local food movement, it's been really interesting, the transition online. So a lot of the farmers markets really quickly did such an amazing job getting online, and we've joined with a lot of them. So our seafood is now available in a lot of markets that never had seafood before because we could never figure out how to make those logistics at that small scale work. For so many farmers, these efficiencies of being online is time saving. You can invest that time back into your farm, into your livelihood, where there's this efficiency where you're translating your story online to customers, and people are able to support you in a way that doesn't mean having to go to a farmer's market on Saturdays, for example. And I think a lot of those things are gonna stay, and I think we'll certainly continue to do it in Halifax, and figure out how to get more products more efficiently to customers who maybe that Saturday piece is a difficult one to overcome, especially in a time of convenience. So I think for the local food movement, it's really presented a lot of opportunities, and so many farmers who've never been online before have just taken up the cause and have been really awesome about getting everything going and really seeing the potential, and they would have never thought about it before. So I think this has the potential to really advance some of those networks and cause, especially in rural areas. This cross-market collaboration has been really interesting too. And you see us here in the North Shore, we don't have apples, so we see Valley products coming this way, and a lot more happening within Nova Scotia, which we've been trying to figure out for a long time. How do you make these logistics work? How do you figure this out? And because you didn't have any other choice, this innovation has really happened. And I think most of these will always keep the online aspect, which is positive for our local food resiliency for sure. And it's definitely put some of those issues to the forefront. Like Chris at Getaway, I've been watching his videos, and he talks about our reliance on imported food. And I think there's an opportunity to critically look at our local food production system and think, how can we strengthen it?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to focus on building on our community partnerships. We're just in talks with another partner right now, and hopefully we can continue the community kitchen in some capacity. But and then also for us, just implementing takeout through an online platform. We're actually switching completely to another platform for reservations, which ties into our takeout system too. So these are changes that we probably wouldn't have made without this crisis in like happening right in front of us. So and I think they're good changes. So it's if there is a silver lining, that might be it. Yeah.
Thank you. So I feel like I've monopolized it all the time. We have some questions from Facebook, and I'd like to. One from Fallon. Here's his question. Has there been a silver lining during the pandemic, or perhaps a surprising positive outcome that you will carry forward?
I've had more time to ride my bike.
Okay.
And I actually, since I started my business, I hardly ever ride my bike anymore in Halifax. And I was just out this morning going along the boardwalk. And so for me, it's actually given me a little bit of time to have a little bit more balance in, because we're closed in the winter and then we're open and very full on the other half of the year. So I've been enjoying that.
For myself, I guess from a personal level as well. Fallon is a client as well. So hi, Fallon, miss you. I think I am, from a business perspective, my brother and I are complete opposites. We're actually quite different. He really likes the behind the scenes. He does all of the marketing and stuff like that. And I really like to be in front of the people. And I teach a lot of the classes and the group stuff. And when we closed down, especially with the fundraiser that we did, I was just, and I don't hate social media. I like Instagram and those kind of things, but my face was just in my phone way too much. Every time I get one message per day now, that I was having 50, every time I looked at my phone from reaching out to people to see what we could do. And it was just overwhelming. And to be honest, I didn't really like that. So I've implemented a rule of I put my phone, me and my brother, we both wake up at 4:30 in the morning. So I put my phone away at 8 and I don't look at it until the morning, and I read a book before I go to bed. And I tell you, I'm sleeping amazingly and I wake up before my alarm. And that's definitely a positive that I hope that I carry forward. But being in my phone too much at first made me realize that I just need to find those times to get away from screens for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another silver lining for me too, right from day one, I was able to be on the phone nonstop with various people within my different networks to try to problem solve. So that was exciting in the sense that no one had answers, no one had any kind of playbook on how to deal with this. And so, I've really solidified a number of relationships in our industry, but even outside the industry, I'm quite active in our entrepreneurial community, and so to me that was really exciting to find ways to work together cross sector and everything like that. To be like, what are you guys doing? How are you taking advantage of programs? What are you doing with your team? All these things were happening so quickly, but it was exciting to see how the power of a network, a strong network, can really. I can't imagine how someone could deal with this in complete isolation. I don't know how people would do it. It would be it'd be a complete guessing game. So it still is, I guess, to a certain extent, but at least we're guessing together. But that's been a huge silver lining, and it's another one of those things that I really hope to take out of this, where it's just more collaboration with other people that I know that are trying to run businesses as well.
Thank you. Because we have Mitch on, I feel like I have to keep my posture right.
Yeah, mine's
I'm slouching a little bit, holding my phone up so that I make sure my mic is working.
Hana, did you have a last thought?
About the silver linings. Yeah, I think it's definitely the relationship. I remember one day saying to John, our meat farmers, I've never talked to you this much. We'd be talking to each other several times during the day. And I was like, I really like you. This is really nice. I've learned so many things about your business that, you know, every time I talk to him, you're like, oh, I'm fixing this in the chicken coop, or the lambs had this happen to them. But anyway, we just kind of definitely understood what we were all doing way better. And it helped deepen, I guess, the collaboration. And then the same thing with the staff, because we were showing up to work every day and it was this really stressful time. I feel like we bonded so much, and you know, it was kind of nice that we were still able to see each other because we were all at work within this bubble together and experiencing it together. I feel like it made those relationships much stronger, and I've just been so happy that I get to spend every day with these people that I really like and that have been really there for me, and I can be there for them through this. And that's been something that, you know, probably is unique to the situation. We wouldn't have necessarily been able to recreate this. So it's been the relationships for sure that we've been able to foster have been really important.
Well, I'm looking at the time and I want to thank you all. This has been wonderful to listen to you share your experiences. So I want to thank Mitch Benvie, Sarah Craig,
Thank you.
Townsend, and Hana Nelson.
Thanks.
And yeah, I'm impressed. I'm grateful for how you've responded and the positivity with which you've responded to crises that nobody expected to happen. And you give us all hope. And I might rent a bike on the boardwalk, but I have to lose some weight first, Mitch.
They go together, Albert.
No,
we have a 2-week $1 trial right now for our virtual fitness program. Just throwing it out there.
Don't
Okay.
tell my wife; she'll make me take it. As we've learned here today, small businesses are the heart of communities. Dalhousie is launching a Dal alumni-owned business directory this summer. We invite all of our alumni to submit their business information and join the program as our way to support and promote you and your business. More details will be made public in the coming months, and we hope to connect with you at that time. On a final note, today's episode marks our 10th and final Open Dialogue Live for the COVID-19 series. Open Dialogue will resume in the coming months with a new lineup of discussions for our community, featuring Dalhousie alumni and experts focusing on current events. We hope that you will join us again. Please follow us on our Facebook page and look for updates. Thanks, stay well, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Albert.
you all.
Bye, guys. Nice to chat.
Yeah, for sure.